Hello dreamers! It's been about 2 weeks since I've come back from an immersive silent retreat. It was a 10-day retreat. I mentioned it in my previous video. I wanted to catch up with all of you guys regarding to how my dreams have been since the retreat and back into my normal day-to-day schedule. So, since I've been back, I've been having nightmares every other night. Now, although that sounds really like a terrible byproduct of spending all that time in an immersive 10-day retreat, I actually find it quite useful. So how are nightmares useful? We don't like having nightmares, but nightmares are there, I feel, to guide us. So nightmares are basically little red flags and prompts coming from our unconscious mind that are letting us see a situation and transcend it. So our unconscious mind can squish down a lot of emotive feelings, emotions, past trauma, phobia, really repressed memories. It's a whole scope of things. So it's the realms of shadow work, as Carl Jung would say. It's unusual because the type of nightmares that I've been having are very different from normal nightmares that I've had in the past. For one, there's absolutely no narrative to the nightmares at all. There's no storyline. There are 0 dream characters. There's no dream characters at all. The best way I can describe it is sort of similar to perhaps fever dreams that you might have as a child. So if you can remember being a child and poorly and sick and having a fever, the dreams are often in loops. So it feels kind of like they're repeating over and over and over again. It's quite nightmarish and quite psychedelic in a lot of ways. So the nightmares that I've been having every other night have been of that sort of nature. So they're very difficult to decode and deconstruct the next day. So what I've been going with is the feelings and the emotions and the energy that I'm going through in the nightmare. Now, and on a lot of these dreams, I'm not completely lucid as I would be in a lucid dream, in which case I would control the nightmare and confront it and transcend it and change it. So what's been happening is quite different in these nightmares is I'm observer. So it's as though I'm watching a film. So I am kind of conscious in lucid to an extent, but I'm watching and observing, and I feel as though, yeah, I could wake up at any moment and I could just get out of this. But I feel like I'm sitting there thinking there's something to learn from this. And actually, I need to journey through this. This is part of some kind of process. So I'm sitting there, my consciousness is sitting there watching and observing, these waves and feelings coming at me, the feelings of fear and anxiety. And it feels like an onslaught of a bit of waves of emotion and negativity. But I'm observing and I'm journeying through it. I'm kind of accepting it and knowing that it will pass, and it's a process. So why all the nightmares? Why all the nightmares after a meditation retreat that would seem as though it would be something that would give you something positive at the end of it? Well, I really believe the type of meditation that we did at the retreat, it's called Vipassana, and the best way I can describe it is like doing deep psychological surgery on yourself with 0 anesthetic. So in this retreat, you're really sitting with yourself and you're really facing yourself. And I think for hours at a time, for up to 9 hours at a time, basically the entire time. And I think what happens in situations like that, it's an unusual situation because who spends that much time sitting with themselves, is that you go deep and you stir up things from your deep unconscious. Now, when I was there, I had a lot of interesting phenomenon happen. There were deep memories, repressed memories perhaps, that came up and that I had completely forgotten about. So my conscious mind was aware of these sort of things, like, oh, I totally forgot about that memory of being 3 years old or 2 years old, very, very deep memory. So if this sort of thing is happening in my waking moments, you can imagine in your dream realms, it's really shifting a lot of things from those deep, deep, deep shadowy realms. So all in all, even though after this retreat I've been going through this sort of journey in the realms of nightmares and shadow work, I find it absolutely incredible. Even though, it doesn't seem pleasant, it is very transcending. I feel like I've gone to deeper parts of myself that I probably couldn't have accessed in my day-to-day busy life. So I would highly recommend, if you are doing shadow work at the moment, if you are getting down to the deeper aspects of yourself, fears, trauma, phobias, unprocessed memories, unprocessed emotions, and you really want to transcend them, I find that this deep meditation practice it definitely gets down to those realms. It's maybe not for the lighthearted. If you're finding that it's very difficult for you to navigate nightmares, it might not be, great to jump into something like that. But for those of you consciousness explorers who are quite up for transcending aspects of your shadow, it is very effective, very, very, very effective. I'll keep you posted as to how I'm integrating all this. I know eventually the nightmares will lift, and they already kind of have. They were really intense the first week, and now they're like sort of tapering off a bit, but learning a lot from the process. And like I said, I'm keeping an observant perspective when I'm in the dream state. So it's been really interesting being observer when I'm always usually actively lucid and controlling and creating things. So a very interesting process. So as dreamers and consciousness explorers, we just keep on keeping on, and we have the wonderful, amazing, transcending lucid dreams that we experience, but then we also have the scary nightmares, the unpleasant types of dreams as well, but they're all just as valid. And in fact, I think nightmares can be our biggest teachers and the biggest guides for us to transcend a lot of aspects of self.